So basically, I want to talk about my Historiotope, which is my art studio, my sound design and research lab. I have come up with a theory I call the Delta-Workspace Theory, or just Workspace Theory. The workspace, basically, it's had many iterations, like 15 or so, like from when I first played in the workshop, my stepfather's workshop in the basement when I was very young. I was forbidden to go there, but he didn't really use it, so anyways, I don't want to talk too much about that. Eventually I ended up in the basement. That was my first real workshop. I had a garage. I was living with my mother and sister in the basement and working in the garage. I'd have like 12 paintings going on at the same time. It was oil paint, so it really was toxic, so it was good that I had the garage. Then I moved into the city with my girlfriend at the time, and I had another workspace, a whole room all to myself. It was amazing. I could aerate the place with the windows, open the windows. It's good to be able to ventilate, when you're working. But then, like, things would pile up in the workspace, like I had tables and stuff, and then I'd have books and piles of books, and like me, like I'm a large person, so I have big hands, and I'll pick up like, stacks of books. That became a whole theory on itself about the Stacks project on Stacks. It's like a kind of a geology of the workspace, and so my theory, like. Basically, there's sequences of movements through the space. I have different workstations, like where I can actually do work. Like right here, I'm at the table in the kitchen. I read and write and take notes. I paint in the back. I have other areas, but these are my favorite. I have 2 computer stations, so I switch from one to the other, send myself emails, and always like things accumulate like in a sort of archaeological, I say, geological way, like strata. I'm always moving through them, so there's a physical memory like to the space. So I see it as a 3D database, and the workspace theory has many facets, but one of them is the delta. It's like where you notice changes in the workspace. It's like the changes in the surface, the 3-dimensional surface changing over time, which I call a historiotope or historiotopia. That I can get into that later. So you have that database aspect, like. People always say like humans are like a narrative like animal, like we like stories, and I think that's great for the last couple thousand years, but I think that I believe like in database theory, the database cinema, which Manovich came up with, and so it's more like an unordered like set or list of items, and they each have their own importance. Like that. So I have a series of paintings because it's a serial method, and I have a series of images, and I have a series of texts, and I'm moving from place to place. So there's always this medium to medium movement, station to station, discipline to discipline, because I'm interdisciplinary. And those movements, it's like so it's like these cognitive algorithms of going through the projects, a sequence of projects too. You have sequence of works, sequence of projects, of movements, atmosphere of thought. Other than that, so that 3D space becomes like a physical database, because like we know now from neuroscience that like there's, I forget what it's called, like context-based learning, memory or whatever. So if I'm sitting here at my table and I work and I'm imagining things, I'm thinking about things, reflecting. With that space that I'm in, and also like the state-dependent memory or whatever, like the body, the state of my body, my posture, and my breathing and everything. So I can have access to these different pieces of knowledge or information or whatever, and data. When I come back to the space, when I move to another space, so there's task switching too. Like I call it a nonlinear practice, because like my thoughts are nonlinear. That's just a condition that I have. They don't follow a sequence. Like I have to struggle and concentrate a lot just to keep the discourse like sort of cogent, and structured. But moving from space to space, medium to medium, work to work, in sequences and movements, like it's nonlinear, because like you'll go from one idea to another, and you get like these tangents, you know, and like it's important sometimes to follow them. Sometimes you have to use inhibition to stop yourself from moving from in the network of thoughts, you know, in a non-linear fashion. And obviously, if I'm talking to someone, I can't just be like skipping from the subject to subject. But in the workspace, it works, you know, like, and yeah, so it's a non-linear practice. See, like the idea comes back and it's like recurring, you know. So I'm aware that it's kind of a OCD, you know, it's kind of obsessive, because that's the definition of an obsession, you know, a recurring intrusive thought. But they're not intrusive in a bad way, but they do pop up, in, like little pop-ups in my mind. The workspace is both digital and virtual. I mean, digital, virtual, and physical, analog, if you will. So that's like it's a complex workspace. It has many moving parts, many subspaces, if you will, substations. I don't know what else. The database, it's like a relational database. There's like these sorting algorithms, like I was saying. If I'm physically carrying like objects, like it's like a computational framework where if I'm moving around, you know, like if you saw me moving around and doing what I do in the studio, you'd think I was completely crazy, because I look like a bee buzzing around. I'll be looking at taking books off the bookshelf, making stacks of books, putting them back, switching them around, playing with paintings, like stacking them, like moving them around, sorting the stacks, like I'm shuffling a deck of cards. It looks like magic, you know, and it's not magic. There's nothing mystical or mysterious. It is mysterious, but like, it'll appear strange to people until they see the finished work, and they'll be like, oh, whatever you did, you're doing great. Like we don't have any problem with that, you know. So that's about it. There's like these coordinates, you know. Everything is in a grid, in the space, a sphere, an atmosphere, and the idea too of the nonlinear, like if you switch from task to task all the time, you're using your default mode, you're more creative, your mind wanders, but like you have interruptions, right? But you don't lose the flow. You can work for 10 to 14 hours in a flow state in the workspace if you have this like concept and this theory of the workspace where like it takes a lot of documentation, you know, like you don't just do, and I wouldn't like want people to just experiment with these kind of spaces, because like I did Feldenkrais for like 15 years, and so I have like a really like in my body I'm really grounded, you know, like a martial artist, and you have to be. And like I've been doing this for 30 years, so I don't suggest people experiment with this. I give a warning all the time that you shouldn't really try anything without supervision, or if you are classically trained and conditioned like I was. I have a degree in computer-assisted sound design, and the rigorous, comprehensive like workflow management methodology that I learned in sound design, I apply in my painting, in my writing, and everything. You know, so I call it ALX. You know, the methodology, or the AG method sometimes. And that's all I really had to say this morning. I'm going to do more of these videos. I got a new camera. We're going to see what it looks like. But thanks.